Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Dogs, don't have anything to add this morning? You're usually pretty chatty when I fire the video machine up. As you may or may not be able to tell, it's been a little while since the last time I did some recording. A lot of things have changed, including my hair. Despite the pretty intense heat we've had in June and the significant lack of moisture, we are still running on our reserves, and the corn and soybeans are progressing. I think our second best looking crop overall right now is my wife's garden. Allie's put in a lot of effort into this. Of course, I built the boxes, but that's a minute part of the exercise. And she's also learning some entomology as the Japanese beetles slowly take over her beloved crops. Although things look nice, green, and peachy here today, there may or may not have been a slight herbicide drift issue from when I sprayed, not this piece of the field, but that section 200 yards to the south with that strong southerly wind, because about 6 to 7 days later, you could see the telltale signs of Callisto and even maybe that encapsulated sharpen from the Sertane showing up on the tomatoes, a few of the flowers, and Jeff and Nancy next door also had the same issue. The plants have recovered, so no divorce necessary, but I was very concerned for at least 2 weeks. This isn't really a conversation for the video, I just wanted to update you all. It's crazy, even if you're super careful, sometimes those driftable fines that are coming out of your spray nozzles, especially with very strong products like Callisto, Mesotrione, whatever you want to call it, they can go a long way, and it does not take very much for your wife to notice it in the garden. The garden, of course, has one luxury that all of our fields do not have, and that is irrigation courtesy of our well water. We have only had 1 total inch of rain in the last 5 weeks. So it is the first week of July, and we've essentially had no rain over the course of the last 5 weeks. That is a worst case scenario when you consider most of our stuff was planted late. Some of it was planted in less than ideal ground conditions, and we're really behind the 8 ball on what happens moving forward here. Exactly today, last year, we got the saving grace of a huge rain. I don't know if we're gonna get it this year. And to clarify to you all, I'm not complaining about the weather. We have no control over what happens. I'm just saying if we want the biggest yields possible, we need some rain sooner rather than later. If we don't get it, we don't get it. That's just life. Just the commentary I'm providing about the status of our crop, the moisture content in our subsoil, and yield potential overall. It is kind of comical how quickly we went from March begging for rain because it was dry all winter to April, May begging for it to stop raining because it was so wet, and then back in July we're asking for rain because it stopped raining. Farmers are never happy. Got a low tire here. I don't know if we got a slow leak or what the deal is. Old 21 psi, that's not very much for a semi-trailer. I don't know if that Milwaukee mobile inflator is capable of running a tire up to 100 psi in a reasonable amount of time or not. I guess we'll find out. Got an 8 amp hour battery on it, so if there's anything that can do it, it's surely that. Haven't really brought you guys along for the ride much so far this summer. Got all of my beans post-sprayed. We ran Liberty on everything, Liberty Roundup, and a residual on top of that. I may have to go back and respray those 30-inch beans that we planted there at Tower Hill late. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, and it's dry there too. These beans don't want to get to canopy fast when there's not plenty of moisture in the top couple inches. We'll see how that situation develops, but for now, it's actually time to start thinking about fungicide. Most of our early planted stuff is scattered around the main farm. Corn shooting tassels over there. We've got that Pioneer 1742 PCE corn. It's almost fully tasseled. Some more of it in the chrome version over there shooting tassels. And then of course we have the best looking crop bar none on our farm, and arguably on a lot of farms in the area. These March beans, oh my goodness, they just look incredible. Well, except for where the spray guy got a little haywire here. You're supposed to avoid the rows, and he didn't exactly do that. Like everything, they need a rain, and yes, there is some variability just based on soil type and topography, but they've got some size to them under there. It's absolutely loaded with nodes, pods starting to develop, blooms continuing on. It's really what you want to see. I think there's a lot of yield potential out here. There's some volunteer corn out here, had to have been Corteva genetics since the glufosinate, the Liberty we sprayed, didn't kill it. And some volunteer wheat. We've not grown wheat for decades at this point, so I would imagine that was in the fertilizer spreader. I don't know where else it would have came from. Water hemp though, I mean, phenomenal water hemp control out here. It was so clean when we post sprayed it, you almost really didn't need to spray it if you were trying to pinch pennies. That's not good agronomic practice, but a viable consideration when you think about the economics. These were planted on Good Friday Pioneer 34 A98s. Good yield potential on them. Targeted 160,000 plants per acre. I believe we probably got a final stand of 130 to 140. As I mentioned, yield potential looks really good, and although it is early for a 3-4 bean, because they were put in the ground earlier, emerged earlier, they are ready for that passive fungicide. No, it hasn't rained. No, there's no crazy good chance of rain in the forecast. However, we don't want to give up on a crop with this kind of potential. I mean, that's a lot of pods developing in their blooms, and it's not even done growing vegetatively yet. Target the R3 growth stage for soybean fungicide. That's where the data shows you have the highest chance of paying. R3 is a 5/8 of an inch pod on the 4th fully developed node, so call this one 1, this one 2, this one 3, and this one right there is 4. I don't have my tape measure. That sure looks like at least a 1/2 inch pod, and it's time to spray, I think. Would you like some more moisture in the ground? Yes. Do we have any say in whether or not we're getting more moisture? No. I wish all of our beans looked like this. I can't really tell if these look phenomenal or if it's the relativity of this year that we have some really late planted beans that are a fraction of the size compared to this, so makes these look even better, or maybe these do look great. I guess we'll have a final determination with all these planting dates come harvest. Won't matter though if it doesn't rain. Who knows? We'll see. A 300-acre load of Syngenta's Mirvis Top and insecticide. That'll get our March beans sprayed. Well, Jeff's up getting that load of chemical. I greased the Hagee, have it ready to run, and then I wanted to show you guys a few samplings of different planting dates. Keep in mind that it's very difficult to make a fair comparison when just grabbing one soybean plant. There's so much variability out in the field that it's challenging to equate two plants to each other. These are all different fields, different varieties, and most importantly, the different planting dates. On the left, we have the Good Friday March planted Pioneer 3-4 beans stacked up with vegetative growth. A lot going on there, very far developed. In the middle, we have a late April, I think the 4th week of April, planted Pioneer 3-7 soybean. Definitely quite a difference in growth between these two. Again, these are all different farms. This is a pretty productive farm. This one can be productive if it rains. It just hasn't rained that much. They could all use rain. And then on the right here, we have a fairly late May, like 3rd week of May, 20th or so, planted Don Mario 3-7 soybean. And this isn't indicative of a yield indicator, variety strength. I'm just kind of showing you the difference that planting date makes. You cannot make up this degree of growth when you plant this late. There's just only so much time in the day. These plants will start to mature eventually, and you can only accumulate so many nodes. Yes, we are going to need a lot of rain to finish these with high yield potential. If these catch some late rains, they may actually have a second coming, a second wind, if you will, and produce more yield than you'd expect. Overall, I'm putting my money on the March ones because they're a heck of a lot bigger. They got a lot more potential as of today. Just needed to start raining. The only super fair way to compare these would be to take a fairly large sample size, multiple plants out in the field, do a stand count, and then actually count all the nodes, count all the blooms, count all the pods, maybe weigh the vegetative mass. I really don't know. Soybeans are just kind of a crapshoot, whereas corn, if you take the population count and you do ear counts, you're going to get pretty dialed in to what the final yield may or may not be. These have a long way to go to make any kind of guesses. Jeff just showed back up with our load of fungicide and insecticide. Time to top her off the tank. The luxury of going from spraying soybeans with herbicide to spraying soybeans with fungicide is that you don't really have to clean out. Yeah, I'm not trying to hit these soybeans with another round of herbicide and stress them out. This first tank full though, by the time it goes through, gets diluted, there's not going to be enough in there to matter at all. Not that it would be an issue anyways, you just don't want to excessively use herbicides, because every time we spray these soybeans, I think we are hurting them, we are costing yield. It's just a necessary evil. This though is purely benefit. The Mirvistop, Syngenta's flagship soybean fungicide, combined with a good two-mode of action herbicide. Syngenta has Indigo is their product. We use Helena's generic two-mode of action comparable, trying to get those hard shell insects like Japanese beetles, stink bugs. We've seen almost a guaranteed, and I hate to speak definitively, but almost guaranteed 7 to 8 bushels an acre. With the prices being what they are today of inputs and the grain market being a complete train wreck, that's not as alluring as it might have been a couple of years ago. 8 bushels is hard to turn down. In a high pressure year, whether it's the insect pressure or the disease pressure, you can see more than 8 bushels. And yes, you could probably see less than that. You might not see very much, but this is a guaranteed pass in our management plan. And a lot of people in central Illinois, is really all I can speak to, use the same thing. They are going to spray fungicide and insecticide at R3 on their soybeans because it's a no-brainer. All of the Liberty we sprayed was at 20 gallons an acre, and all the fungicides at 15 gallons an acre, so that's a nice little luxury. Get an extra 20 gallons or 20 acres of fill. Get a lot more done, hopefully. Still running the size 5 Greenleaf twin dual fans. We're inducted. I think this is a pretty good dual choice nozzle. I can also run a little faster since I'm running 15 gallons an acre. Been out here for 20 minutes and we've already sprayed 80 acres. Better than that 20 gallon an acre Liberty spraying. Just finished up the first 220 acres. See some of that tasseled corn. A lot of unevenness out there. Either water damage because it was subject to a lot of rain early, or compaction. Don't really know. Definitely need some rain on about all of this soon. We're already on our last fill of our 300 acres of soybean spraying. It's amazing how quickly you can go with those lower carrier rates. Not that 15 gallons an acre is low to begin with. And of course, just big fields. The first field is 220 acres. No nooks and crannies. I mean, just back, forth, back, forth. This one, same way. It's a short 90, 85 acres. Nice long passes. Get a lot done. This is pretty light dirt. It can be productive. I've said numerous times, you gotta have rains to make that happen. Our neighbors here to the south, they waited for a lot better ground conditions than us on some of their corn. Their stand looks great. Even their stuff is kind of showing some moisture stress. You got it rolled up. It's only 75 degrees today. It's actually kind of chilly. A lot nicer than the 95 plus we've had for the last month. It's kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't. Plant it wet, get a little compaction, but then it stops raining. Wait, well, you get better planting conditions, but then it doesn't rain, and smaller plants seem to hurt a little bit quicker when it doesn't rain, especially on some of these drier soils. It's been a tough year all around. There was kind of a no-win scenario other than planting beans in March, because these look great. done thinking about spraying anything for at least a week. I'll have to look at those 30-inch row soybeans again to see if they're going to need another post shot. They got a long way to go to close the rows over there in western Shelby County. And then corn fungicide, we're still probably 10 to 14 days away from thinking about that. My dad's current project is just cleaning any remaining Liberty that could still be in the tanker out, because he wants to irrigate his sweet corn. It's a passion project for him, and it's been so dry. We want a decent sweet corn crop. Just for the love of the game, we're gonna have to use some water on it. Tanker will hold 7,000 gallons loaded to the brim. That ought to hydrate the ground pretty good. I really don't have anything else to update you all on today. We've got corn from tasseling to knee high. It all could use a shower. There's a good chance here in a few days of an inch. That'd be a lifesaver, but it is what it is. If it doesn't rain, can't control it. No reason to lose any sleep over the matter. We've still got a lot of old crop corn to move off the farm. Jeff and I periodically have been working on that. Unfortunately, the grain prices have gone sideways on us even further than I thought possible, because old crop corn now is sub $4 a bushel. When you account for the inflation of everything, cost of replacement of equipment, wear and tear items, all these different factors, and the fact that our yields aren't increasing that rapidly to compensate for price loss, sub $4 corn is going to be a little bit more painful this time around than it was 4 or 5 years ago when we dealt with it last. It's not like we're going to be hamstrung by any means. It's just no fun when your gross and net profits make their way significantly down from where they were a previous year, a previous few years. Yield potential at this point in time, I'm not going to rule anything out. Last year we got that big rain and averaged over 230 bushel an acre dry across our entire farm, arguably with a better start to the season, earlier planting. Planting conditions this year were much more marginal, to say the least. We've got some stuff that looks like we're geniuses and other stuff that looks like we shouldn't even be in the business of farming. So it's all over the board. Let's have to see what Mother Nature deals us, and then we'll go from there. Even if this were looking to be another phenomenal year financially, the price of everything is so crazy. It's just not making sense to invest in some of this stuff anymore. The hard assets, the grain bins and some of these other things, the land, those are more reasonable and justifiable, but some of these equipment prices, holy cow, it's like, does it really provide that much value to your operation? I don't know. That's a conversation for a different day. I'm going to take off, enjoy the rest of the day, and even maybe a slight little vacation with my family. I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Catch you all in the next one.